Happy Thursday, December 7th to you, Spartans. Welcome back to Contemporary Issues. You can see the agenda today, obviously from 1:40 to 2:25 is a check-in time by Zoom if you haven't already done so this week. You can also, going forward, check in with me by email. But again, make sure you are checking in with me one day each week so you can get your participation points. We have a short little lecture to go through today, and then I'm going to explain what we're doing the rest of today and or the week. We have some discussion questions to do. We will reply to a post on a chat board, and then we're going to watch the first 50 minutes, 50 minutes of the documentary 13th. The first 50 minutes should be watched by the end of class tomorrow. Well, let's get down into it. You had the reading and questions to answer regarding what the prison industrial complex is and how that has been affecting Americans. And it's a pretty straightforward topic here, right? Your article tells you that the prison industrial complex is a term we use to describe the overlapping interests of government and industry that use surveillance, policing, and imprisonment as solutions to economic, social, and political problems. The documentary that we're going to watch is going to explain the economic, social, and political problems that the United States has had in the 20th century, or the United States had since the Civil War ended. All right, it's going to explain the problems that the country had and how government and industry work together. This connection between government and industry is not limited solely to prison, criminality, and corrections. It's present in almost every single industry that we have in the United States. And what can be the concern with that? That's kind of what we're looking at here. Kids typically get tripped up on what industry is, what industry means. When we're talking about industry, we're not just talking about factory work and manufacturing. We're not just talking about producing things. We're not just talking about energy like oil and gas. And that's not the definition here of industry. When we're using the term industry, we're talking about sectors of the economy. Manufacturing is part of our economy. It's a sector. All right. Energy is a sector of our economy, but so is pharmaceuticals, so is healthcare, so is education, so is transportation, so is retail. These are all individual industries, sectors of our economy. And what we have found in the last 100 years is that oftentimes our industries, our sectors of the economy are very closely related to what our government is doing. We need to understand why our economy, why our industries, why our sectors of sectors of the economy are so closely related to our government. We need to look at how they're closely related to our government because it does have an impact on us. Your article very much specified that the United States population is 5% of the world's population. Our country has 5% of the world's population, but we have more than 20% of the world's prison population. How is that possible? Are we just criminals in the United States? Are we all just bad people? Are we all deviants and menaces to society? Or is there a concern that we need to be aware of what can potentially happen when our government and our corporations or our industries are working together with one another? A lot of this comes down to money, right? So if we look at just we take out the prison industrial complex and we just call it an industrial complex. Maybe it's the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Or President Eisenhower at the end of his time as president in 1960 talked about the military industrial complex. There's an education industrial complex. Whatever it is, it's government and industry using a societal, economic, and or political problem for gain. Industry will exploit any sort of problem for financial gain. What is the point of any industry? What is the point of any company? What is the point of any corporation? It's to make money. Politicians, what do they need? They need anything to get reelected. Politicians run on an issue. Issue A, issue B, issue C. I have the answer. I have the solution to solve that problem. But they also need money. They also need money to be reelected. Is there some sort of nefarious connection between the money that politicians are receiving and them getting elected? In 2014, 2010, the United States Supreme Court issued a ruling entitled Citizens United versus the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. Supreme Court ruled that corporations could no longer be limited on how much money they are spending on campaign activities. They can spend whatever they want in regards to elections and political action. Why? Because the First Amendment says that we have the right of expression, the freedom of speech. As a result, could it potentially be that our corporations are buying our politicians who are making these laws? If we look at the the prison industrial complex specifically, are our politicians passing laws that lead to higher rates of incarceration because they are funded, their campaigns are funded by companies that directly benefit from a surplus of prisoners in the United States? I mean, if you think about it, in politics and government, we talked about the Koch brothers and George Soros, one Democrat, the other two Republican, who contribute significant sums of money to politicians' reelection campaigns or their campaigns to be elected for the first time. Are politicians going to be more or less likely to pick up the phone when it's the Koch brothers calling them or George Soros calling them versus me calling them? I don't have billions of dollars. Are politicians going to be more readily inclined to do what wealthy people want because they donate versus the common citizen such as myself? And then we go into the presence of millionaires in our government. Most presidents are millionaires. Most senators are millionaires. Most House of Representatives are millionaires. People who run corporations are typically very wealthy, millionaires, if not more themselves. If the government and our corporations, who are already wealthy, are working together, is there a chance that the regular folk of the United States can have their constitutional rights infringed upon? The article alleges that you read for today, the article that you read argues that, again, 5% of the world's population, but we've got 20% of the world's prison population. Interesting concept there. And again, not just prisons. Many of our industries are connected to government activity. Are our politicians being bought off? Think about pharmaceuticals. Think about in the United States, we're dealing with an opioid pandemic. We have a lot of Americans that are struggling with pain pills. Why were they prescribed so much? Why do the doctors prescribe so much? Why were the doctors given drugs from pharmaceutical companies that were highly addictive? Was it regulated? Was it tested? Were things fast-tracked and steps skipped over? Something we got to look at. A couple of discussion questions here to answer for you, or for you to answer for me. All right. Some of these are from the reading, and some of these were based on what I was talking about here. Explain what the prison industrial complex is. I think that's a pretty straightforward question. Comes directly from the reading. What other industries may be closely connected to and or have similar interests with the United States government? What other corporations can you think of, industries can you think of that are working together with our government? 3, how is it possible for corporations or industries to have power or influence over the United States government? Well, it usually comes down to one thing, and we talked about that. And then lastly, why is incarceration the preferred solution to economic, social, and political problems in the United States? We're going to talk about, I'll talk about that one tomorrow once you answer, but I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this. Why incarceration? Why send people to prison? When you're done answering the questions, and again, please copy and paste the questions into the comment box before you're answering so I know what you're answering. When you're done with that, you're going to start watching the documentary 13th, and this is about the 13th Amendment, which ends slavery, but allows for the incarceration of people and more or less free labor for those who are incarcerated for a crime. You're going to watch the first 50 minutes by the end of class tomorrow. By the end of class tomorrow. So that's what we're doing today and what we're doing tomorrow. There will be another video because again, I kind of want to look at those answers and see what you guys have. And then there'll be some discussion questions tomorrow, which I'll explain then. If you have any questions or you haven't checked in with me yet, make sure you do so today, Thursday, or tomorrow, Friday, the 8th. But you guys have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you guys soon. Go Spartans.